question. How do you deal with disputes in my property versus your property?
Very good question. Do you remember a picture where we have the photocopier and the woman? Okay. In an informal, in a liquid market and unreal property market and all that, there are no real conflicts on the ground. Everybody knows to whom their property, to which person the property exists. I think you asked me. No, who was that? You asked me? Somebody asked me about property, the boundaries and to whom does the property belong. So you have properties, there's no question that this is my kitchen, right? The problem is in this paper. That when you try to, and that's where my problem is with digitization. When you try to collect hundreds of years of paper back today, and you put the map of the municipality right there in the plots, and then the map of the agricultural ministry on top of it to find out how do they match. One shows a plot registered in their name in 1890s, which is very, very big, and it's like a feudal plot. And the municipality within that feudal plot has subdivisions because it's no longer an agricultural entity, but it is a city. That, however, hasn't been finalized, hasn't switched off, hasn't been legally turned off in the Ministry of Agriculture. So according to the Ministry of Agriculture, that plot is still agricultural plot. And it's not a plot, it's the area. And according to the municipality, there are thousands of people living there with families. And on top of it, they have zoned it, they have planned it, then they have put electricity, and they have put water, and they just don't have titles. That's the type of conflict. So the conflicts we have were conflicts. In accordance to the old traditional legal system, how would we have this, what I just explained to you, conflict resolved? It would be a conflict, a real conflict. So you had to go to the court. So each one on top of it individually had to go to court, not all together. Each one had to go to court and define have a court judgment for each one of them individually. And then the judge would issue a property right, and it's called a different judge, called the title by the judge, not by the registry, because it doesn't get transferred from Mr. A to Mr. B. It gets transferred through a court decision, and that's how this title would be issued and had to be registered. In Greece, in Athens, we have several neighborhoods that are packed with apartment buildings, and they're still declared forest lands. The only greenery you will see is probably a pot of basil at the veranda of the house. And as we speak, 2009, it is described, Vasiki, where do you see it? It's described forest land. Okay?
Well, I know that we're running low on time, so maybe we'll leave one last question to Rick.
Oh, okay. I'll try and make it quick. I was just kind of curious, so you work for the World Bank and you have your triangle, your triad of stakeholders, and I was trying to get a feel for how you convinced or how you provided or sold the program to the private side. Was the shift in risk due to securitization, was that enough to get them on board because they knew if they had people they could?
There is a problem. I think I didn't explain myself well. When I was working at the World Bank, there was no triangle. When I was working at the World Bank, it was Elena herself, me, yours truly, convincing my boss, convincing the legal department, convincing the world that this is an important reform. Right? It took 7 years to do that convincing. And it was not internally within the institution. institution of the World Bank. It was internally within the World Bank and also with all the academics of the world, because the academics of the world were still in the process that transaction cost of zero, what are you talking about? What are these property rights? This is literature, this is not economics. I've heard it all. Okay. As a result of that, I've learned that it is not possible to do these reforms from organizations like the World Bank, because they don't fit into that triangle. You understand? They don't have a stake. What they do is they go into a country, they make suggestions like consultants. They may issue a loan like I managed to do, right, with some conditions. But it took a long time and it requires a lot of negotiations, and the organization, the way it is structured with the employees and the way it is, you know, you don't get a bonus if you actually created an extraordinary institutional reform. That's why we don't have institutional reforms at the World Bank. This is the only one we have, and it hasn't been replicated. Funnily enough, no? We don't have judicial reforms done by the bank. We don't have other reforms of that sort. But we have other stuff which is easy to do, more traditional, such as infrastructure building, structural adjustment loans in the macroeconomics, the fundamentals. Oh, they're perfect on that. Privatizations. I was doing privatizations one after the other. These were easy. These are easy things to do, because they're okay. So the triangle is more as a result of my work there, and now as a panel. Did I answer your question?
I think so, but I'd love to pick your brain on it a little bit afterward.
Well, again, I want to thank Elena for coming out and
Thank you.
coming all the way from East.